All right, fellas. Appreciate you coming out. It's good to finally be back in person in this room with you. Started training camp, one of my favorite times of the year. We get our players with no distractions, right? There's no school. They're ours all day. There's no time limitations. And we get a chance to really get better. I think this is the time of year where you make your most improvement. You're doing it every day, 6 days, and then you take a day off. You meet with them. They immediately get feedback off of video. So it really is the most important time for every football team. Not that the other times aren't important, but I think this is a critical time for our football program. So I'll open it up for questions and try to help you as much as I can.
Greg, do you have to do anything different with this camp? Because it's the first time they've been in a training camp environment in basically 2 years. You know, the fact I know you had the run up to last season, but that was a lot cooler, more condensed.
Yeah, and you know the way camp is set up by the rules, and there's some rule changes this year, what you can and can't do during certain days and what have you. But the way we do it, we practice in the morning. And we meet in the afternoons, and then we have our walk through at night. So there's plenty of time to get everything done. They get a good rest in the middle of the day, which is equally important to all the work we do. But our guys have not been in a training camp. Like that last year I told them that wasn't training camp. That was going to school and practicing and getting ready for a season. So it wasn't getting ready for an opponent, but it still wasn't training camp. This will be a little different, and different than they're accustomed to even. You know, we're staying on campus and in a dormitory and all fun stuff like that. So, but I can see the excitement in the building. The guys are jacked up. A couple of the players have already been in to see me and just, you know, ready to go. So that's fun. The energy is really, you know, you can feel it.
Is there any differences from your first training camp in the way you structure it, maybe the strength and conditioning leading up to it, and how it kind of is all going to play out?
Well, that's a good point in that I think we're ready. You know, as I've shared with the team, summer conditioning, summer training is to prepare to have a good training camp. So now we have to have a great training camp to have a great season. Like, I think it's one step at a time, and you can't get out of order on that. So they've trained really, really hard. I think they're physically ready. I think they're mentally ready. And academically, we're in good shape. So all those things are positives. Now we got to go. Now it's actually, you know, doing the hard work, because it is hard, right? I mean, it is from when you wake up to when you go to bed, it's football. But that's why, you know, I often say we need guys who love the game. You know, that's why I say that, because this isn't easy.
Greg, two-part question on your defense. Just in general, what's your defensive philosophy? Is it multiple base at this point, right? Multiple base 4-3, 3-4 could be either way. And then I think we asked you in Indy about the offense, having all these starters back, being more creative with Sean, same coordinator, but you also have the same defensive coordinator, and you have 9 of 11 starters and a bunch of guys on the 2 deep back. Does that allow you to be more creative with what you want to do from a defensive standpoint?
I think what it allows you to do is do what you do, but do it better, right? Because you have more cumulative repetitions. I don't think it's necessarily always more. More isn't always better. You just have to do things better. Now, will there be some tweaks? Sure, every offseason you tweak this and tweak that to make it effective against what you're going to see, right? So you look at, you know, our training camp is to prepare for the whole season, right? Although we know that Temple is coming on September 2nd. So about, give or take, 10 days out is when you go into game week preparation. So before that, you're preparing for the entire season. So there's some things we're going to see later in the year that are not customary that we have to make sure we get repetitions at, because otherwise we won't be ready for it. In 3 practices, you won't be able to get ready for it.
But you're multiple at this point. I mean,
defensively multiple, be able to 4-3, 3-4, that kind of look, you know, coverage-wise, multiple coverages. Yeah, it's it's what we've done. Tweak this, tweak that, but it's something that I think our players are now more comfortable with than they were certainly last year. Same thing offensively. You know, it's not necessarily like different plays, but different things you can do within each play, within each scheme, within each family, when your guys are more familiar with it, that you can make it, you can go faster, you can go multiple plays, you can do a bunch of different things, whereas when you're learning it, literally you just try to hope that you get up and line up and do it right. So, and you got to be careful, right? Because the temptation is to do more now that your guys have. I'm a big believer in multiple reps, cumulative reps, at getting better at something, because the team that you're going against, they've been doing the same thing. So you really have to execute at a high level.
Greg, this summer we saw Mohamed Toure introduce himself at camps as a defensive end, and then he started working out on Twitter with defensive line trainers. Would you see him as more of like, I guess, the traditional R position that you used to have, like a Khalil Gauld type mold?
I think he's capable of doing both, Richie, so I think that's what we're going to do with him. When a guy has the ability to do both at a high level, then we're not going to pigeonhole him, so to speak, right? We're going to let him do both. Now, he's done less of what, he's rushed the passer all last year, but he's done less early downs playing on the line of scrimmage. So he'll get a little more work at that this preseason, but he's going to be able to go back and forth.
Greg, we know that Noah is going to be the starting quarterback in the training camp. What do you want to see from Cole and Evan to kind of, maybe take the next step for them to be named the backup?
Well, I think it's going to be purely who runs the offense better, right? And everything that goes along with that. So that's the cerebral part of it, making sure you get everybody lined up, everybody's in the right place, running the show. And then after that, you have to be able to do the things that the quarterback does. So whether it's deliver the ball to the right place accurately, or it's, be able to read and be able to decide to run or give it to the running back, or whatever that may be, the RPO, making the appropriate read. Those are all things that the quarterback has to do. So it's running the offense, executing their job, and then the leadership component that goes along with being a quarterback.
Just with Noah coming off the injury, is he a full go right away, or do you kind of have to ramp up slowly with him just because of?
Noah is a full go. Yep.
Piggybacking off that, how's the team health-wise? I mean, any injuries of concern going into this?
There's a couple guys that'll be limited because they've done either they're still coming back from something, or they tweak something this summer that is not fully back. But overall, I'd say we're in good health. But again, you're never you put together that big a group, and especially this year, because you have the NCAA had made a concession. Usually you have 110 limit, but now you can bring your super seniors. So we'll have 15 of them. So we'll have 125 guys in camp.
Aaron Young had a lot of touches last year, but it feels like we talk about Cruikshank and Young, but we never talk about him. What did you see from him this spring, and what do you think he has to do to kind of take that next step? And what's a pretty crowded room, considering he can do wide receiver and running back?
Well, I think Aaron is really a multiple position guy. He's a running back. That's what he is. But he can go anywhere. He can line up outside at wide out and be proficient at doing that. He's a really good special teams player. So he's a very valuable guy to our football team, and really, really a smart player as well. So we're going to lean on him quite a bit.
First, did everybody make it to report day today?
I'm going to get into that tomorrow, probably after practice. I think we're scheduled to talk tomorrow after practice, and I'll get into that because with all the different variables that are going on, 6 o'clock will be, when do we meet? 7 o'clock? I forget what time we meet. 6 o'clock. It'll be interesting. I think everything's going to go smoothly, but I don't want to misinform you. So tomorrow I'll have a better answer for you.
High number of freshmen, too, enroll early. Is that going to be very advantageous for them trying to play early this season?
That's really become the norm in college football. So, yes, we did have a lot, more than half of our freshman class enrolled early. But if you look around the landscape, at least Power 5 football, that's kind of becoming the norm more than the exception. And there's a lot of positives. Initially I used to say to you guys, I hate to see kids miss their senior spring because what a fun time that is. But, you're not talking about, this guy. You're talking about future NFL players, that this is a way to get another advantage or head start on that. So I understand exactly why guys do it, and I've kind of changed my stance on it. And I make sure, unless they vehemently don't want to, I make sure they're going back for prom, they're going back for graduate, they're doing all those things, at least that are the milestones of your senior year.
I was hoping not to have to ask the COVID question. I know you talked about having to pivot, but the Delta variant, how concerned are you affecting your program in general? And then, I mean, this might go above your pay grade, but considering everything that's going on, you expect it to be a full capacity for the season opener?
It's what, as far as I've been told, that's where we are. Yeah, but I'm like everybody else. I do kind of live in a cave this time of year, but I'm aware of the Delta variant, aware of what's going on. Just saying our prayers and trying to do things right around here.
Greg, what are your expectations for Julius Turner and for him to kind of build on what he was able to do last year?
I think that's exactly what I look for him to do, to build on what he's been able to do. I think Julius, in our scheme, is a really effective player. And he's had the best offseason he's ever had at any stage of his career. He's legitimately put himself in a position where he could have a really big year. Now you never know the variables that come up, right? It's a tough game, but I'm really excited to see what he can do.
Fans ask us a lot about Peyton Powell. I mean, he was kind of the first splash guy you added. I know he played safety in the spring game. Where do you think he's at and how he can contribute this season?
Well, he's performed at safety this summer. We're just going to have to wait and see on that one.
Pacheco, we talked a little bit about him in Indy, but how important is it for him to maybe take another step? Maybe I'm sure we'll talk to him at some point. He's talked about 1,000 yards being a goal at some point. Would you like to see that? It's been a long time since Rutgers produced a 1,000-yard rusher. Would that be a goal in your mind to kind of get him to maybe take another step?
No, I'm not sure. He could have a great year and not rush for 1,000 yards, or he could have a not so great year and rush for 1,000 yards. I don't know if that's the gold standard. I want to see him do what he's capable of doing, and I thought at times last year he did. At other times, maybe not as much, and some of it wasn't directly, his fault. Right? We have to do a good job up front, and then he's got to trust the plays and be patient with the plays. And when he does that, I think he's a really, really big-time running back. Strong, explosive, fast, tough, just has all the tools. And I'm looking for him, and I know our whole staff's looking for him to put it all together on a consistent basis. We've all seen flashes. I'd like to see it on a consistent basis, because if he does, he'll be as good as there is.
Greg, what are you looking for in the offensive line this training camp? I know some guys prefer a top 5, a top 8, and historically Coach Ulrich has preferred to rotate guys in and out. So what are you kind of looking for among that group this training camp?
Yeah, that's probably the group that is the most up in the air. And I don't mind saying it. It's going to be tremendous competition. There's much more physically competent guys than we've had before. And some of them are the same guys. They've just changed their bodies and really gotten themselves in a position to play the position in the Big Ten. I mean, that's a tough spot to play in the Big Ten Conference. There's some really good defensive players, especially front 7 players. I think Coach Ulrich and Coach Falone and all that, they have done a tremendous job of building them as well as with Coach Butler and his strength staff. And I hope that this training camp, the top 5 are going to clearly distinguish themselves. But like you said, we're not afraid to play 7 or 8 guys if they're 7 or 8 guys that are worthy of playing. So, you do that at so many other positions. I think you can do that at the O-line. You just have to practice that way, So that's one thing that if we have the guys, we will practice that way and have them ready to go.
Sticking with the offensive line in the spring, Holland Pierce was the most improved player on offense. Do you see him, really fighting for a starting spot?
I do. Yeah, I think Holland's got as much a chance to be starting on September 2nd as any of the other guys. I mean, it's all up for grabs. That's what I mean. And it's not, sometimes you say that's because you don't have any. I don't think that's the case. And maybe it was a year ago, but I think we have some guys that can play in the offensive line. It's just how much better can we get in this next month, right? It says, you walked in, you saw the countdown clock. There's 30 days, 5 hours, and blah, 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 right? How much better can we get and it's our whole football team. But I think the offensive line is particularly in those crosshairs. Thank you, guys.